You just have this massive aura around you and this magnetism. And, people, you come in a room and everyone's like, who's that? And because you're smiling and positive, then everyone's like, oh, I need to know that guy. I need to listen to him. And so you're showing up in the State House. It seems like you've created some unusual friendships and relationships too, that people who might not have thought that they would gravitate towards you have found found themselves working with you on various things.
And since I've announced this exploratory committee to consider running for governor, you would see, like, you would expect that a Democrat, especially in South Carolina, would receive all this hate mail or hate emails or hate posts, things like that. But for me, it's been on the opposite. For when I announced this, I've received positive feedback from Republicans, positive feedback from Democrats, from independents, from Green Party folk. All of them saying that they want to help me with the campaign. They want to help raise some money. They want to be a part of the campaign. And it's been a broad spectrum, very, very similar to like when you were running and how we had the events. And when you asked, who was Republican, who was Democrat, who was Green Party and all that. And, you had pockets of people raising their hands. My support system has been the same. I've had pockets of people raising their hand from all different sides of the political spectrum. And that's because, I went into the State House saying, well, why in the heck do I want to spend all my time hanging out with Democrats? I said, because if I'm hanging out with Democrats, we're just going to be a bunch of bobbleheads and everybody's going to be saying yes, yes, yes. And I said, I want to spend some time hanging out with people who are saying no so I can figure out why are you saying no and can we come to some sort of consensus as to why you're saying no so we can have an agreement as to where we can both say, all right, well, I can kind of live with that. And I think that's what's best for America. That's what's best for South Carolina to really bring people together. So I spent a lot of time with the Republicans. I mean, I spent a lot of time going to their houses, hanging out with their kids, doing things that they like to do, going to their events. I've got some Republican groups in my district. I go speak at those Republican groups where I'm literally the only black guy in there. There's a bunch of old white Republican men, and I'm the only black guy in there. And I'm hanging out and spending time with them because I truly do want to get to know other individuals, but I also want to break down those barriers. I want to break down the people being afraid of a big black guy. I want to break down those barriers and say, hey, listen, we're not different at all. And our priorities need to be lined up correctly so that we can truly all benefit together.
It sounds like the Democratic field is parting for you, and that there aren't other Democrats who are like, oh, I want to take on that race. Is there a Republican incumbent?
So, Henry McMaster right now is the longest serving governor in South Carolina history. You remember when Nikki Haley went to go be with Donald Trump, he replaced her for her final 2 years, and then he ran for his 2 consecutive terms, and then he's been the Republican. So we're going to have a new governor no matter what happens because he's term limited out. So you've got like 4 or 5 people who are considering a run for governor on the Republican side. You have Alan Wilson, who's the current Attorney General. You have Nancy Mace, who's a congresswoman. You have Ralph Norman, who's also a congressman. And then you've got some other state senators, Republican state senators, that are considering a run as well. So the Republican side is going to be a very, very crowded field for out there. But as far as the Democratic side, right now, I'm like the only candidate that they're like, we're with. And I don't know if anybody else is considering or is going to jump in, but it almost seemed like as soon as I announced my exploratory committee that everybody was just kind of lined up behind me and said, listen, we are going to push this guy. And a lot of Republicans on the Republican side, in the Senate and in the House, they've made public statements about me. They said, no, Jermaine is probably the best Democratic candidate we've seen, in recent memory. He is the one that, he's really the one, if anybody has a shot to win it, he's the guy that has a shot to win. And they're saying that, they're usually when Republicans are throwing rocks at people on the Democratic side, these people are saying, no, Jermaine is fair. He's family first. He is that type of individual. And if he is elected, that he'd be a good guy to govern for all of us. So, I mean, what I'm receiving versus what the Republicans are receiving is night and day. And I actually, I receive it all.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to have very, very good opportunity to make your case while the other side is going to fight it out through next spring. So at this point, if someone listening to this is like, ooh, I would like to see Jermaine transition from exploratory committee to declared candidate, how can they best help? How can they keep up with you if they'd like to make a contribution to your committee, which eventually I believe will become a campaign? How can they best do so?
Well, if they just go to my website, Johnson for SC, JOHNSONFORSC.com, you can just click on that big old red donate button, or fill out the form to be like notified of like updates and volunteers type stuff. Because obviously we're going to need people to make phone calls. We're going to need all those different types of things. But really, it's not about a time frame for when I announce or if I announce. It's really about if we have a dollar amount. Because if we meet a certain dollar amount to go ahead and announce a candidacy for governor, that's what it is. That's what it's all about. Because if you get the financial backing, then you can run a good race. You can be a viable candidate. But without the financial backing from the people, you really can't run a viable race, and you can't get your message out. You can't get this message of unity that I'm trying to put out there. I can't get it spread across South Carolina. So if you're watching, please, no amount is too small. And right now, no amount is too large. You can donate as much as you want or as little as you want. It's all spendable. And we want to be able to bring the people on to go ahead and spread this message. We have a goal of raising about $500 million before we announce. So if 500,000 of y'all want to go ahead and donate $1, we will gladly take it so that we can go ahead and start moving this state forward.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.